you know, an execution of avoidance to being able to deal with some of the tensions that we had in the last meeting. But I genuinely believe as a team of professionals that we can come together. And I relayed that to our town manager, that I was disappointed, to be honest, that I expected our director to be here with us today and for us to just work through any tensions that we have and come to a better place. So I apologize that I didn't present that in the beginning, but that we will not anticipate. I'm not sure if she's going to attend further meetings. That wasn't clear in my meeting on Monday when I was meeting with the town manager, but she's not expected to attend tonight.
Mary?
Yes, sir.
Mary?
Yes, Matt.
Isn't that extraordinarily outrageous? Of the years I've been on, and I don't know about Nan, we've never had a library director that decided they could not or would not come to the meeting. As a matter of fact, I remember being told by Jean at one time that we couldn't meet without her, that she had to be present at every one of our board meetings. And if this is what is the purpose of this board of trustees if we have no interaction with the director of the library? And if we're going to be, all of a sudden we're picked about something, do we get to say, well, I don't want to come anymore?
Right.
This is really a lot of BS.
Well, I'll tell you,
Mary, I would just like to add, if the tensions are related to the 6-step problem solving, this is not solving problems. We also do need to stop repeating ourselves. I recognize not everyone is very familiar or comfortable with a virtual platform, and that this does have connectivity issues, and there are occasional overlaps. But we can't keep beating a dead horse on topics that we've had. And to Matt's point, not having someone present who is a vital component of the public library, which the director and Jean as the director is, may make the next few meetings very repetitive and therefore not nearly as productive.
Well, and I'll tell you the other thing is, it might as well resign as a board. It's ridiculous. It is a senseless task that we're involved in if we already have no direct opportunity to have conversations with the director. That's been made clear through town council. But when you can't even have the person present at the meeting, Julie, explain why she thinks that acceptable.
I think that I'll just leave it at this, to be concise and succinct. I objected very much to that decision. I made it very clear to the town manager that it was a unilateral decision, and it didn't really take into consideration the needs or the opinions of the body, the board, or me as the chairperson. It was sort of it's sort of an avoidance. It was an avoidance strategy, and I'm hoping that we will revisit it and that we'll correct it, to be honest with you. And in good faith, I did meet with the town manager in hopes that we could problem solve how to better work together with the director. And I was disappointed in that outcome. But I would like to move to our next agenda item, if that's okay with the board. The first piece that we had to work through, the town manager and I had to have a number of discussions. The first one was about the minutes from October 28th. While the board unanimously approved them, there were some requests after our approval that the director of the library made, that she would like to submit her notes to Suzette, who was filling in as our note taker for Jen, who was out that week. And initially, my understanding as the chair was that it was going to be maybe a title, maybe a word or two. But when the notes were submitted, they were quite extensive, and I included them in our minutes. Just to point out that I did discuss this with the town manager, and I did state that these were not our notes, that these were not the notes of the meeting, but rather an afterthought, and she affirmed that the director of the library reviewed the video from YouTube and filled in all these quotes. So the recommendation from the town manager was, moving forward, if the minutes are not in front of us and we can't approve what it is that we see, that we won't approve them. The other option was that I could rescind. You know, I could vote on rescinding our votes and then to vote again, but I thought that that wouldn't be in the best interest of our time as a board. So the information that was presented, these are Suzette's notes, and the additional information I had underlined just to make it clear that those came in after our vote. But for now, the advice from the town manager was just to present to the board, moving forward, we won't accept any addendums to our notes. That in fact, the Board of Trustee minutes belong to the Board of Trustees. And the only time that somebody can adjust those minutes is if we inaccurately quoted somebody as saying something that they didn't say. And we want to check for accuracy. Otherwise, it should just be a matter of business. We should be able to approve it and move on to the next item. So I wanted to just present that. That was what I discussed with the town manager. And if anybody had any input on that, I would welcome that. But we did already approve these minutes.
Okay, I agree with you, and I was going to comment on that. I thought that I made a very bad mistake by voting to approve before we saw them.
Right.
But I was so sick and tired of the conversation that I just said, okay, this our section in here should have gone on the website. If the director of the library is interested in presenting information to the town, which is the way this was described, then put it on the website. Let every person in town see that I'll make any accommodation you want. We're not going to be open Saturday, so if you want to come at 7 or want to come at 6, I'll be happy to be there. I'm glad that you had this conversation. I agree about with Julie. These are our minutes. They are not somebody else. So thank you.
And the language that I used, Matt, was that I don't want in the future for our minutes to be usurped. Like that is something that the note taker is in charge of. If there's any commentary, that could happen with our note taker. Go ahead, Jen.
Mary, I would say that I don't think any of us voted with full clarity on what was happening, and I would wholeheartedly motion to rescind that vote and vote on minutes as originally written for October. It was not that extensive.
I appreciate that, and that was one option, but I didn't want to hold up the board. So I hear a motion to rescind those minutes. Do I have a second motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, so second from Matt. First is Jen. Just doing a quick roll call. Suzette, do you have a vote?
Yes.
To rescind?
Rescind.
Okay. Paula is not present. Jennifer Shea, you already did, and Nan Johnson?
Yes, rescind.
Rescind, okay. So now, do I have a motion? I heard from Jen. Do we have a motion to approve the initial minutes without the added materials? Do I have a first motion? From Nan. Thank you, Nan. Sorry, I wasn't looking up. Do I have a second motion? Okay, Suzette, you have a second. Thank you. And going through the roll call, Matt Toth?
Yes.
Yay or no? Yes.
Yes.
We had Nan already, Suzette already. Paula Melican is absent. Jen Shea?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, great. And I agree. Thank you, Jen, for articulating that. What I didn't want to do is hold up the board more. That was my initial idea, is what you said, was to rescind and then to re-vote on the initial. And the town manager just gave me two different options, and I appreciate you speaking up. Your active membership is genuinely embraced. Thank you so much. Can we move to the November 4th meeting minutes? And, sorry about my cough.
Mary?
Yeah.
I would motion that we table November 4th approval until December, since it does have the written note saying that we approved October meeting minutes with pending edits from Jean, and now that is not accurately displayed, and that would also, I think, need to be clarified in some capacity.
Okay, so we're tabling?
But
Jen,
we need to
could
make
you
that.
could you just add that as a note to these minutes so that we could approve them? You can
What
offer
would you
that,
eliminate?
yeah, as a correction to the
You know what?
minutes.
First of all, I appreciate, Jen, your point, but I think one of the challenges with the minutes, and that's why I talked about it to the town manager, is what was happening is every meeting, the minutes were being challenged, and the town clerk informed me that she hasn't received my minutes. And I said, well, that's because they haven't been approved. So is it possible that we could go with Matt's position, which is to approve them with those changes? Would you agree with that, Jen?
I'm on board. I thought we just said that we didn't want to make addendums to minutes, so that's where I was proposing that. So if we want to make a note on the October minutes, I don't know what the clarification actually is. It's been a long day, but the verbiage is not coming to mind, because technically we did approve them at that point, so maybe they don't even need to be edited. It just needs to be noted in December's minutes. And, and there doesn't need to be a motion. I'm game for either. I just wanted to clarify, since we opted not to make changes in the meeting.
The difference is we can make the changes, somebody else cannot make the changes.
Exactly.
Okay, so then the question would be, do we feel there's a need to change November's line that says approved October meeting minutes pending Jean's edits, as long as we clarify clearly in December's minutes that we did in fact rescind that vote and approve it as originally written, and then technically November is
That's going to
accurate.
be tonight's note.
We're updating for December.
I agree.
I agree. We just strike where it says minutes from October were approved pending edits by Jean. Just take that line out completely.
Yeah. Okay.
But we did approve them, Suzette. So, and we just rescinded them in December. So I think Mary's point is it should just stay the same, and December's minutes note the change. Is that correct?
Okay. That's correct.
Okay.
So do I have a motion?
November's minutes.
So what I understand is, Matt, you gave me a first motion to approve November 4th minutes. Is that correct?
No, I think I did.
I think Nan did.
I think I did.
Nan, I'm sorry. So Nan and Jen, you gave second motion? Okay, and Matt Toth, you agree?
Yes.
And Paula's not here. I said Jen. And Suzette?
Yes.
Okay, and I agree as well. So they will be accepted. Thank you for your patience, everybody. And I really appreciate your input, because the meeting that I had with the town manager was about really coming together as a collaborative team and having everybody feel that their voice is valued. And a big piece of that is, and this is going back to the problem-solving question that I had earlier, is I don't care if we have a 6-step, if we have a 1-step, 3-step, I don't care what it is, but we should be able, everybody should have input, and they should feel comfortable doing that. So thank you for tonight. We're moving forward to, I know our director is not here. Did everybody receive the bill schedule and the director's report?
Yes.
Yes. Does anybody have any questions that they want to add to our notes about it that we could submit later to we can submit it to the library director, whether she's here or not?
That is my question, Mary. What is the process in which we can follow so that the public has full record of the questions we asked and the answers we received on the bill schedule and the director's report, if we have any? Because typically if there was something here and they were called in, they would be able to hear that information. We tend not to go into extensive detail in the minutes on them because we are just reviewing the documents that have been provided. So because she's not here, do we know of a process that is acceptable in which to address questions and answers so that we're not hiding anything. Not that I think we are, but that we're transparent.
Yeah.
Let's rephrase that.
Yeah,
Is
that's
there a
right.
process appropriate so that we are transparent with our question and answers around this if we have any?
Excellent, excellent question. And again, the meeting that I have with the town manager, we talked about respect, transparency, and accountability in reference to how we work together and our roles as to our constituents as people who are elected in our positions. Her feedback to me directly was that when an issue comes forward in a meeting, when an issue comes forward like a complaint or whatnot, it goes to the library director. If it's not satisfied, it goes to the town manager. Your question is sort of an inversion of that question, which is if there's a library report, how do we make that transparent to the public? I'm not sure, but I can inquire about that. What I imagine would be what I would imagine would be that she would submit something in writing, or, to be honest with you, that's a very good question. I'm not sure how to respond to that. I think I have to refer to the town manager on that one.
Yeah,
And
I'm
my
not
hope would
thinking
be-
necessarily a minute. I'm just thinking if Suzette has a question, we can record the question, provide them to Jean, and review at our next meeting the answers to those questions. Because if anyone called in on a meeting, you know,
Yeah.
they're not getting that information. Or we could just choose to hold reviewing of questions on these until then. Sorry. Go ahead.
So first of all, thank you for synthesizing that. Can I ask the team, do we have a preference? Are there questions that we can record in this meeting? Because again, this is recorded and it's on YouTube. So if anybody had any questions, they would be able to review the video. Is there anything that, for the record, that anybody wants to ask about the director's report or the bill schedule?
I have a question.
Go ahead. Is it Nan? Go ahead.
Yes.
Nan and then Suzette.
Okay.
At the end, they talked about the Wi-Fi access, and I wondered how that was being made available.
Okay.
Just pull up before 9 o'clock at night, anytime over the weekend? How would people know it was available?
Okay, that's a good question. Okay. Suzette, did you have a question?
I
Suzette?
did. I think I know the answer to Nan's question, though. You just pull up and it's not a secure internet, and it's open.
All the time?
You just drive up and it's an open Wi-Fi.
Okay.
You don't need a password for that one.
Okay.
Okay.
My question was, the first thing is facility. There are no current issues with the building. And then I went to the back under technology and it says continuous problems with our building with losing electrical connections.
Oh, no. Okay. Okay. So the question is to clarify whether there are or aren't problems with the building.
Right. And then there's a whole paragraph. It results in having to wipe the hard drives and reinstall the software, including that from CW Mars. The IT director believes its uninterrupted power supply device may help.
Okay.
So is there a problem or isn't there?
Is there a problem or not? Okay. Any other questions regarding the bill schedule or the director's report? No questions? Then are we sure we have no questions? No, go ahead, Lynn. Go ahead.
On
I have
my
a question.
sheet, there seemed to be some additional information on the page 1 for the Shrewsbury Library. I'm not sure what it says. News Bank, something price for $2,800.
Yeah. I saw that
I was
too.
trying to figure out what that was too.
Yeah, I saw that. I reviewed that and I had a question about that as well. So your question is, first of all, what does it say? But also, what is the $2,800 allocated toward?
Sure.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Go ahead, Suzette.
Right above that, it says constant contact. How does it cost $168 for constant contact when it's on a program that's already been bought and it's already all set up?
Okay.
It's a
I'm just
subscription
wondering what-
service. Constant Contact is a subscription service.
Oh, all right, thanks.
Like, I think
And
there's
that
monthly or quarterly. I don't know what the fee schedule is, but often there are monthly or quarterly fees of some sort. So I would imagine it's that.
All right. I had another question on November 23rd. There's a $325 payment to Theodore Reinstein. And then on November 9th, there's also a $325. So twice a month he's getting paid $325?
That's a good question. Okay. We could use that clarification. Does anyone have anything else? Go ahead, Nan.
I just thought it was unusual to see a copier fee being paid to Wells Fargo. That's a bank or a brokerage house as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
It's just odd to see it as a copier lease.
Okay. So again, this video is being recorded, so my hope would be that the questions that we have, that we would figure out the system for the library director to respond and to get that information out. Anybody have any other questions? Okay, then we'll move on to the next, number 5, strategic plan goal. There were some questions and conversations amongst us regarding in the last meeting about the strategic plan and how we will discuss pieces of the strategic plan or the tactics. What's the process for that? When I met with the town manager, she said specifically, I apologize, my puppy is crying behind me. She reminded me of the boundaries between, we can ask questions and open a discussion, which is my hope, but that we're not discussing definitive aspects of operations. So one particular piece that one particular piece that I asked her about was, you know, we've been very interested in whether or not we can, how we go about donations. We know that as a board, we can't approach donors and town employees can't approach donors, but the town manager shared with me that she would like me to share with the board that she's been approached regarding donations for the library. She would like to be able to present that information to us directly. She preferred me not to relay that, and I respect that. A piece that she wanted to talk about was there's been some extensive discussion on strategic plan goal number 6, which has to do with the, sorry, I have it right here. How we can optimize the interior or the exterior spaces to meet a diverse, evolving operational community needs. She said that there's some exciting news and they're looking to articulate the donors, but that they're discussing some pretty extensive renovations to the library that will impact the beauty, you know, the aesthetics of the library, but she wants to present that herself. And again, she said that they've had discussions with the library director, the town manager, as well as the team and the financial director, and they have been approached, but she would rather discuss that. She would rather present that information herself, and I told her I would respect that.
When?
That's a good question. The conversations that she had regarding the donors were over just recently, and what she was trying to determine is how to go about, sorry about my puppy, how to go about what's the word? How to coordinate that information in a way that is comprehensive and then to bring it forward to us. So that's a good question. I might follow up with the library. I might follow up this meeting with an email to the town manager about the questions about how we will process the questions for the director sorry, I'm gonna have to bring my dog over here. And as well as, if she has a timeline on that.
Mary,
But I was kind of excited. Some of what she shared with me has been shared as ideas when we were in our strategic plan. And I was excited to hear that there were takers in terms of moving that plan forward physically to renovate the library.
Mary,
Yep.
two things. One, the dog is more annoying to you than the rest of us. Not a big deal.
Okay. Yeah, good.
It's very evasive and vague and kind of out of left field. So I think we need to have a better, if Julie wants to present something to us, to be here, because I don't know about the rest of you, but I just feel like it's kind of like got something, but don't really know what the heck I got. And I don't know, know anything else about it.
Yeah. Right,
And
right.
I don't think we looked at donors to be just someone to fund a renovation. We have been looking at the concept of this in multiple fashions across the Friends group or book donations or
Right.
a word I'm not supposed to use, but people who support the library who aren't library employees. Can't think of another phrase. I hope that was clarifying. It just seems very vague and evasive to have half a story here.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's an attempt to be like, it just comes off that way right now because I really don't know what any of this means.
Right. Fair enough. And to put it into context, well said, to put it into context, the conversation was about the desire of the board to have transparent conversations about, what's going on with, what's the process for donors? How are we doing with the Friends? We should be able to talk about a reopening plan. Leominster has already announced that they have some lobby hours. So the conversation that I had with the town manager, what I presented was we should be able to have dialogue about these things. And during that time, Jen, she shared that there are some exciting things. And I said, the board is not trying to usurp authority over operations. We want to have a free-flowing dialogue about just what's being discussed, what's on the table, just so that we can be transparent with our constituents. And it was in that conversation that she said, there's been some exciting things going on. She has been approached by donors. She reiterated that she can't approach donors, but they can approach her. And she's trying to put together the process to be able to match donations and then to be able to present that to us. So that's what she shared with me. No, thank you. Thank you. I looked at that clarifying question.
Mary?
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead, Matt. I hear you.
This really is kind of distressing.
Okay.
But I'll answer a little bit because you brought it up about the Friends group. Paul and I really have spent a huge amount of time trying to get the financials straightened out with Phil and with the IRS. It is an incredible amount of work. So, but we've always had hope that the Friends would be able to be a group that would be able to extend our requests for donations in different places.
Yep.
I'm going to just go back for 1 second, unless you decide I can't do that. But what is the point? Julie is in charge of all of her directors. She decides what their job description is and whether or not that job description includes being responsive to their board of trustees. And if Julie has decided that she's not going to have that as part of Jean's job description, then what is the point of all this? Do we just meet with Julie and leave it at that? Is that the process that's correct?
To be completely transparent, we had a pretty colorful conversation and we went around and around about that a little bit. And my position was very simple. We have a very dedicated board. We're not looking to usurp authority. We're not looking to be in any way authoritarian. We want to simply be able to be informed about things. We want information to be transparent. And if people have questions, we feel like we want to be comfortable asking those questions.
And we're not.
To be completely honest, I didn't feel that the meeting was productive because I felt that the need for transparency and the understanding that it has to be a two-way relationship between the director and the board, I wasn't feeling that that was being heard. And again, the decision, I was very, very adamant that removing somebody from a team is not creating cohesion on the team. But nonetheless, that decision was made, as you said, 2 weeks ago. So that was something that none of us were involved in that decision.
This is just incredible. Either Julie is the town manager and decides what her direct reports do or don't do. So Julie must agree that that's okay for her not to be here.
I think she directed her not to be here, Matt, to be clear.
Oh, okay.
That she
That's clear then.
suggested that based upon the tension in the last meeting, her decision unilaterally was to tell our director not to attend. And I objected vehemently, I want to be very clear, vehemently, that that was not a productive decision and that was not in the best interest of cohesion. It was just avoidance.
Well,
but she had a different position. She had a different point of view, and we agreed to disagree during our meeting time.
Matt's point. We can't get any transparency if we don't have a library representative in this meeting to answer those questions. If the documents are provided are not telling us of these updates that are happening as they happen, or as we've just discussed, the questions we have are confusing. To Matt's original point, we're a moot board, and there's no point for our existence if we have an easier. There's no point in anyone's effort to support this if we continue to be in a place in which we can't engage. And it further is moot to have a conversation because we don't even have a town representative here who is not acting as a anonymous public entity, which people are on this call, great, totally fine. So we have no clue who's engaged in that piece, and they're not supporting it to chime in and to support you as a telephone conduit to prior meetings or other discussions that are going on, or to provide us insight on what's happening in the library. So we're just talking to ourselves about things that we don't actually know about, which isn't getting anyone anywhere outside of approving minutes that you've been asked to have because they haven't been approved.
Right.
I don't know what our recourse is. Really, because I don't know where we go. You can't go to the selectmen. You can't. I don't know. Maybe you go to the town meeting to at least talk. I don't know where you go. Because this is outrageous. I can't even believe that.
I think that the first step would be, as I said, when I first became the chairperson, I requested a meeting. And in the meeting, very clearly, I was clear about my displeasure with some of the past meetings, the fact that we could not have any sort of dialogue. And to use my own language, I feel like if we even bring up an idea, it's sort of swatted down very quickly. And the goal of meeting initially with the library director and the town manager was to establish an understanding. The reason that we met this past Monday was because clearly the last meeting, there wasn't evidence that there was that understanding. And to use a memorandum of understanding between what is the relationship between the library staff and the board? What are the standards of that? The reason I brought up code of conduct, and during our conversation, I guess when I presented it, I stated in our town meeting, our last meeting, that all of the boards have a code of conduct, but it was clarified to me that that's not true. Only the Board of Selectmen does. My thinking behind a code of conduct was to create a construct so that even though the board are the ones that are agreeing to it, that would be a standard for our board. And the other piece about the problem solving is that I see a need for collaborative problem solving and for professionalism that we have not been afforded thus far as a board. So again, I brought those issues up and I was adamant, all of the opinions that you have shared, I discussed those on Monday. And my hope would be in resolution to answer your question directly, Matt, and directly, Jen. I think the answer is our town manager needs to come to a meeting and we need to problem solve with her how to refine, because otherwise we are not a legitimate board. If we don't have a voice, we can't ask questions, and we can't have, you know, we can't have constructive conflict from time to time. So that, so everything you said, I support you 100%. I shared that on Monday as well.
I really appreciate the attempt that you're making on this. We all know about operations. My God, we've heard that 1,000 times, how we can't interfere. But there seems to be, aside from that even, that we can't get information about what's happening. When we ask about what's happening towards the strategic plan, that's a no-no. All of a sudden, how bizarre is that when you think about it?
I think we can work through it though, Matt. My position on it, because I'm very pleased with the cohesion of our board. The issue is really the partnership with the library. So that's something that clearly there's a barrier and we need to work through it, but I'm confident that we can work through it. And I want to just encourage the team that, you know, the strategic plan is a valuable document. It's a living document. But the issue is, until we can work collaboratively, we can't move it forward. So in good faith, I think we can continue to work together. Go ahead, Nan.
Hi.
And then
I do agree with what you're saying and certainly approve of your slow method. We have to take this gradually. And I do think perhaps the TM was looking for a cooling off period, to put it in another frame. In setting up that little blurb that I sent to you for the description of the BOT on our website, I turned back to the trustees handbook. And there's quite a listing of responsibilities assumed or legalized for our board and the director. And just give it another look, everybody, and see if what we're saying is really the standard operating procedure here. It might give you another set of words or a little bit of a different direction to go in. I find that trustee book very useful, Matt.
You know, and the only trouble with that handbook is that it doesn't take into account those towns that have a town manager that is responsible. And so most of those things that are listed are either given by the town manager to the library as the library board of trustees as a way for them to work together, or librarians like working with the board of trustees and like sharing information. And so it works out very well. But that's the problem with most of the MBLC material.
Right. Suzette, you had a question or a point. Go ahead.
I think we're wasting our time. I really think we should not meet until she's ready to come to a meeting. I make a motion that we do not meet unless she decides she's going to come to the meetings.
I would like to amend that motion, Suzette. I think we need Julie.
I agree. I agree.
Needs to make a decision as a town manager. The town decided for some reason that that's how the protocol should be set up many moons ago, and they changed the charter. That is the process. It's been in place for many moons now, and Julie needs to make a decision, and it needs to be made at a meeting, and we need to know what we're doing, and we then need to be given the opportunity to decide if we feel that that's worthy of our continuation after we have a concrete answer or not. I think Julie needs to do that. I would hope, beyond all hope, that Jean would be at that meeting to hear all of that information as well, and to further that everyone at the library would want to be involved in that conversation to know what Julie is, in essence, putting in stone as the process. Because I think that is the hindrance right now, that we're not getting an answer. And so, Suzette, I'd amend your motion to, I motion that we end the meeting and we don't have another meeting until Julie is able to be here and provide concrete delineation of what the board can and cannot do and where Jean is involved in this process. And by that, I mean being engaged, someone from the library is present at the board meetings.
You know, Jen,
I'll second that.
please, excuse me, I'm sorry, Suzette, go ahead.
Go ahead, go ahead.
No, I think one of the things that we might want to do, and I guess I could bring that up formally to the, we listed out what our concerns were and what the problems were in that June letter that we wrote that Julie got from us.
Right.
That was not done according to town council in an acceptable manner. But the fact of the matter is, we could have that conversation with that draft in front of us and then vote to either send it or not, but then we've done it openly.
Right.
I thought, and that's why I had made the suggestion that we didn't do that openly, that we did that with Julie so that
Right.
he could respond to us in some kind of a way to help us understand the frustration that we've experienced. Julie is fully aware of that frustration.
Yes,
But
it is.
maybe,
Yep.
I don't know, maybe I'm way out of line on that. We just want to forget about it, or I don't know what you want to do, but somehow we explained what our concerns were.
Right.
Matt, are you
I think-
suggesting that perhaps at a future meeting, since it's not on this agenda, before we have guarantee involvement that Julie would be present, that we bring that as our agenda item to the meeting, we review the letter, we provide any edits and feedback, we vote on submitting it in a formalized, through public forum discussion, and then take action from there. Is that what you're getting at? I just want to make sure I understand.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So can we vote on that? So Matt, you are making, well, let me back up a little bit though. Going back to Suzette initially made the motion that we should not meet until the library director is physically present. Jen made an amendment to that motion and stated she would like to amend it by saying that until our town manager meets with us, that we need to end the meeting and move forward. So starting with that amended motion, do I have, so I have a first motion. Suzette, you gave me a second. It's going to go through the names. I have your names all here. Matt, do you agree?
No one voted on that. If we're in favor of moving towards Matt's direction, I remove my motion.
Okay, okay. So going back to what I understand,
Motion on the table or not.
so what I understand the motion to be is that we're requesting a meeting, the next meeting that we do hold formally with the town manager, and to be able to have the letter that we presented to the town manager as well as the response of the town council
No.
to discuss it. No? Okay.
The people need to discuss a letter to Julie in a public forum on a meeting to express our concerns with the lack of cooperation we have experienced with the library staff in regards to moving forward collaboratively and successfully for our role as community advocates and the library staff's role as operations of the library. So we would be establishing that discussion from start.
Okay, so Matt, you made that motion. Jen, do you second that motion?
Yes.
Yes. Can I have Suzette, do you agree?
Yes.
Yes. Nan, do you agree?
Yes.
Okay, and Paul is absent, and I agree. So we're in agreement that the next meeting that we will hold, we'll expect the town manager to be present and to be able to discuss these barriers that we discussed today in this meeting. So do I have a motion? Do I understand?
Julie needs to be there, Mary, since we're just starting the conversation. We're basically having what you might have one-off had or Matt originally addressed individually with anyone with Julie as a group. We're discussing it ourselves. I don't think Julie needs to be there yet. If she can be at the next meeting, great. But I think the point is for us to flesh that out in full in a meeting, list out concerns, ask our questions, formalize that, and vote to share all of that with Julie.
Okay.
And get a public response from Julie.
And that will not violate any open meeting laws If I bring in
No.
something that I'd like to present to the board or the board wants to respond to, that would be fine. That's perfect, Jen.
But I think
Okay. Okay.
January's meeting, assuming we're voting to have a January meeting,
Yes.
would be
Yep.
to have the meeting agenda, in my opinion, would be approving December's minutes and discussing concerns to bring forth to the town manager regarding our role as library board of trustees and how to receive a response at a library board of trustee meeting.
Well said, well said. Okay. So just to summarize the rest of the time that I spent with the town manager, all of the questions that came up by the board tonight, I talked to her about the reopening plan, why we can't have a code of conduct or at least some parameters, you know, whether we can create some sort of a constructivism model to work together with the library. And the response that I got was more about the clarification that we can have discussions, but we can't make recommendations to operations. And I clarified several times, I don't remember us ever doing that. I think that we just want to be able to bring matters out in a transparent way and discuss them. And and to me, to my perspective that I shared on Monday was, it should not be contentious. It should not be competitive. There should not be interrupting, and that is not acceptable. So just that's just the end of the items that I had for the evening. Does anybody have any comment before we motion to close?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I appreciate
Okay.
what you've done on that. Again, you're making attempts to help clarify this and you know, so that we are all clear on what's happening. And I think probably that meeting in January is going to be pretty important for us.
I totally agree. So we're meeting on January 6th, 2021 at 6:30 virtually. And I had a motion to close from Suzette. Matt, did you second that?
Sure.
Okay. Jen, do you support that? Yeah, and Nan, to close?
Absolutely.
All right. So this meeting is adjourned. You know what? It's colorful and it's enjoyable, and I know that we can work through this. We just need to have cooperation with the library staff. So thank you all for your good faith.
Good job, Mary. Good night.
Thank
Thank you. Appreciate you. Bye now. Bye.